What I'm about to share with you is the culmination of everything we've explored together. The somatic healing, the shadow work, the spiritual warfare, all of it has been preparing you for this moment. The moment when you stop being a victim of your trauma and start becoming the alchemist of your own transformation. But here's what nobody tells you about integration. It's not a destination you arrive at. It's a way of being that you must choose every single day for the rest of your life. I've taken you through the depths of trauma, through the darkness of shadow work, through the battlefields of spiritual warfare. But now I need to show you how to build a life that honors every dimension of your being. How to create relationships that support your wholeness instead of feeding off your wounds. How to transform your deepest pain into your greatest gift and use that gift to help others break free from their own prisons. This isn't just about healing anymore. This is about becoming who you were always meant to be before the world told you who you should be. This is about reclaiming your sovereignty, not just as a healed person, but as a powerful creator of reality itself. 3 months ago, I was still living in my parents' house, still walking on eggshells, still allowing my father's narcissistic energy to dictate the rhythm of my days. Today, I'm sitting in my own space, speaking my truth to thousands of people, building a business that transforms lives, and raising my son in a way that honors his authentic nature instead of crushing it. The difference isn't just that I healed my trauma. The difference is that I learned how to integrate that healing into every aspect of my existence. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start thriving, if you're ready to build a life that reflects your true power instead of your old wounds, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video and tell me in the comments below, what would your life look like if you were living from your gifts instead of your trauma? Because that vision you have, that dream that feels impossible, that's not fantasy. That's your soul showing you what's possible when you fully integrate your healing. Let me start by telling you about the moment I realized that healing without integration is just another form of spiritual bypassing. I had done years of inner work. I had processed my trauma, integrated my shadow, cleared spiritual attachments. I thought I was healed, but then I found myself in the same patterns, just with more awareness. I was still people-pleasing, just with spiritual language. I was still avoiding conflict, just with more sophisticated justifications. I was still giving my power away, just to different people in different ways. That's when I understood that healing is only the first step. Integration is where the real transformation happens. Integration is where you take everything you've learned about yourself and use it to build a life that actually reflects your authentic nature. It's where you stop being a spiritual tourist and start being a spiritual resident. Here's the breakthrough that changed everything for me. Most people think integration means finding balance, but that's not what integration is. Integration is about becoming whole. It's about honoring every aspect of your being, your light and your darkness, your strength and your vulnerability, your human nature and your spiritual essence, and weaving them together into a coherent way of living. The wounded healer archetype isn't just about helping others heal from trauma. It's about becoming so integrated, so whole, so aligned with your authentic truth that your very presence becomes healing for others. It's about transforming your wounds into wisdom, your pain into power, your trauma into triumph. But here's what I need you to understand about this process. Integration isn't comfortable. Your ego, your family, your friends, the entire world around you is invested in keeping you small, keeping you wounded, keeping you playing the victim role. When you start integrating your healing, when you start showing up as your authentic self, you're going to trigger everyone around you. You're going to lose relationships. You're going to face resistance. You're going to be tested in ways that will make you question everything. This is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. This is a sign that you're doing something right. This is the universe testing your commitment to your own transformation. This is life asking you, are you serious about this? Or are you just playing spiritual games? Let me tell you about the 3 pillars of integration that transformed my life. The first pillar is somatic sovereignty. This means your body becomes your ally instead of your enemy. You learn to trust your body's wisdom, to honor its needs, to use its intelligence to navigate the world. Your body becomes your compass, your early warning system, your source of power. Most people live disconnected from their bodies, treating them like vehicles to carry their heads around. But when you achieve somatic sovereignty, your body becomes your greatest teacher. It tells you when someone is lying. It tells you when a situation is unsafe. It tells you when you're betraying yourself. It becomes your direct line to truth in a world full of deception. For me, somatic sovereignty meant learning to trust the knots in my stomach when someone was manipulating me. It meant honoring the expansion in my chest when I was speaking my truth. It meant listening to the tension in my shoulders when I was taking on too much. My body became my guide, and following its wisdom transformed every aspect of my life. The second pillar is shadow mastery. This doesn't mean eliminating your shadow. It means integrating it so completely that it becomes a source of power instead of a source of shame. Your anger becomes your boundary-setting fuel. Your sadness becomes your capacity for deep empathy. Your fear becomes your intuitive guidance system. Your darkness becomes your depth. Shadow mastery means you stop projecting your disowned aspects onto others and start owning them as part of your wholeness. You stop being triggered by other people's behavior because you've integrated those same potentials within yourself. You become unshakable because there's nothing left to hide from, nothing left to be ashamed of. When I achieved shadow mastery, I stopped being afraid of my father's rage because I had integrated my own rage. I stopped being triggered by my wife's criticism because I had owned my own critical nature. I stopped being intimidated by authority figures because I had reclaimed my own authority. The shadow work didn't make me nice, it made me whole. The third pillar is spiritual sovereignty. This means you become the author of your own spiritual experience instead of being a victim of spiritual forces. You learn to work with spiritual allies, to protect yourself from spiritual parasites, to navigate non-ordinary states of consciousness with wisdom and discernment. You become a spiritual warrior, not a spiritual victim. Spiritual sovereignty means you stop giving your power away to gurus, to religious institutions, to spiritual teachers who claim to have all the answers. You become your own spiritual authority. You develop your own direct relationship with the divine. You learn to trust your own spiritual experiences and use them to guide your life. For me, spiritual sovereignty meant learning to work with Sekhmet, not as a deity to worship, but as an archetypal energy to embody. It meant developing my own spiritual practices instead of following someone else's system. It meant trusting my own spiritual experiences even when they contradicted conventional wisdom. But here's where most people get stuck. They think integration means perfection. They think it means never having bad days, never making mistakes, never feeling triggered. That's not integration, that's spiritual bypassing. Real integration means you can feel all your emotions without being controlled by them. You can face all your triggers without being derailed by them. You can navigate all your challenges without losing your center. Integration means you become antifragile. You don't just survive stress, you grow stronger from it. You don't just heal from trauma, you transform it into wisdom. You don't just overcome your wounds, you alchemize them into gifts. Let me share with you the daily practices that maintain my integration. Every morning, I start with somatic scanning. I check in with my body, notice what it's telling me, honor its needs. I don't just meditate, I communicate with my body like it's my most trusted advisor. Then I do shadow work check-ins. I ask myself, what am I projecting today? What am I avoiding? What parts of myself am I rejecting? And I don't wait for triggers to do shadow work, I do it proactively, like spiritual hygiene. Finally, I do spiritual protection and alignment. I connect with my spiritual allies, set energetic boundaries, and align myself with my highest purpose. I don't just pray, I actively participate in co-creating my reality with spiritual forces. But the real test of integration isn't what you do in your private spiritual practice. It's how you show up in your relationships, in your work, in your daily life. It's whether you can maintain your center when your narcissistic father tries to push your buttons. It's whether you can speak your truth when everyone around you wants you to stay small. It's whether you can hold your boundaries when people try to guilt you into abandoning them. Integration means you become a force of nature. You become someone who can't be manipulated, can't be controlled, can't be diminished. Not because you're hard or closed, but because you're so integrated, so whole, so aligned with your authentic truth that there's nothing for manipulative people to grab onto. This is what happened in my relationship with my parents. When I achieved integration, I stopped trying to change them. I stopped trying to get them to understand me. I stopped trying to win their approval. I simply became myself so completely that their manipulation tactics stopped working. I became energetically sovereign, and sovereignty can't be argued with, it can only be respected or rejected. The same thing happened in my marriage. When I stopped being the wounded boy looking for a mother figure and started being an integrated man, my wife had to decide whether she wanted to be in relationship with my authentic self or with my trauma responses. Integration forced everyone around me to level up or level out. But here's the most important part about integration. It's not just about your personal healing. It's about your mission in the world. When you integrate your healing, you become a beacon for others who are still trapped in their trauma. You become living proof that transformation is possible. You become a bridge between the world of wounds and the world of wholeness. This is why I started my YouTube channel. This is why I'm building my coaching programs. This is why I'm sharing my story with you. Not because I'm healed, and you're not, but because I've learned how to integrate my healing into a life of service. I've learned how to transform my wounds into wisdom, and use that wisdom to help others break free from their own prisons. Your trauma isn't just something that happened to you, it's preparation for your mission. Your wounds aren't just scars, they're credentials. Your pain isn't just suffering, it's the raw material for your greatest gifts. But only if you're willing to do the work of integration. Let me tell you about the moment I realized my trauma was actually my calling. I was working with a client who had experienced similar narcissistic abuse, and as I was guiding him through shadow work, I realized that my ability to see his blind spots, to understand his patterns, to hold space for his pain, all of this came from my own journey through darkness. My wounds had become my superpowers. This is the wounded healer archetype in action. Not someone who's perfectly healed helping broken people, but someone who's integrated their woundedness helping others integrate theirs. Someone who's transformed their trauma into wisdom and uses that wisdom to light the way for others. But here's what I need you to understand about building a business around your healing. You can't just share your story and expect people to pay you. You can't just talk about your trauma and call it coaching. You have to transform your personal experience into a systematic methodology that others can follow. The key is authenticity without narcissism. You share your story not to get sympathy, but to provide hope. You reveal your wounds not to stay wounded, but to show others how wounds can be transformed. You speak your truth not to be right, but to give others permission to speak theirs. This is how you build relationships that support your wholeness instead of feeding off your wounds. You attract people who are committed to their own growth instead of people who want to stay stuck. You create a community of fellow travelers instead of a following of wounded admirers. But integration also means knowing when to walk away. It means recognizing that not everyone is ready for your level of truth. It means understanding that some people are so invested in their victim identity that your healing threatens their entire worldview. It means having the courage to outgrow relationships that no longer serve your highest good. This was the hardest part of my integration journey, realizing that my parents might never change, accepting that my wife might not be able to handle my authentic self, understanding that some friendships were based on my woundedness, not my wholeness. Integration required me to grieve the relationships I thought I wanted and embrace the relationships that actually supported who I was becoming. But here's the beautiful paradox of integration. When you stop trying to get love from people who can't give it, you become available to receive love from people who can. When you stop trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed, you become available to serve people who are ready for transformation. When you stop betraying yourself to maintain relationships, you become available for relationships that honor your authentic nature. The integrated life isn't about having everything figured out. It's about being willing to figure things out as you go. It's about trusting your inner guidance, even when the path isn't clear. It's about having the courage to be yourself, even when being yourself is inconvenient for others. Integration means you become a living example of what's possible when someone commits fully to their own transformation. You become proof that healing is possible, that change is possible, that breaking generational patterns is possible. You become a beacon of hope in a world that's forgotten what wholeness looks like. This is your mission. This is your calling. This is why you went through everything you went through. Not so you could stay wounded, but so you could become whole. Not so you could stay small, but so you could become sovereign. Not so you could stay silent, but so you could speak truth that sets others free. Your integration journey is just beginning. Every day, you'll have opportunities to choose wholeness over woundedness, authenticity over approval, truth over comfort. Every day, you'll have chances to use your gifts to serve others, to transform your pain into power, to alchemize your trauma into triumph. The world needs your medicine. The world needs your wisdom. The world needs your unique blend of darkness and light, of strength and vulnerability, of human experience and spiritual insight. But first, you need to integrate it all into a coherent way of being. This is the alchemical integration. This is how you build a sovereign life. This is how you transform your wounds into your greatest gifts and use those gifts to heal the world. The journey continues. The integration deepens. The mission unfolds. And you, the wounded healer, the integrated warrior, the sovereign creator, you are just getting started.